Happy July 4th, everyone. As we celebrate today's independence, I think one of the best ways to honor those who sacrificed to help us achieve our independence is to make sure that we're learning from the past, that we are accurately capturing the lessons of both their failures and their successes. And I think, unfortunately, when we think back on the American Revolutionary War and what it took to achieve our independence, we can have a distorted, even skewed view of what it took. We can think that, it just took bravery and standing up to the British Empire, and that was about it, And bravery certainly was essential, and, the heroic act of courage that took place are tremendous, and there's a lot we can learn from that for today. But bravery alone was insufficient. And George Washington warned about this, warned that we might end up with a skewed view. I just want to read one quote by him where he said, "It is more probable that posterity will bestow on their labors the epithet and marks of fiction, for it will not be believed that such a force as Great Britain has employed for 8 years in this country could be baffled in their plan of subjugating it by numbers infinitely less, composed of men oftentimes half-starved, always in rags, without pay, and experiencing at times every species of distress which human nature is capable of undergoing." He thought that we would bestow on the efforts of the American patriots the marks of fiction. And I worry that we've done that here in Shasta County as we think about our relationship to the state of California. Now, in no way, let me be clear, am I suggesting that we should be or are in a literal war with the state of California. But oftentimes we do have disagreements with them on policies and on the values that we are trying to cultivate and live out here in Shasta County. And if we think that just bravery and standing up to the state of California is going to be successful, I think we are failing to learn and remember the lessons of the Patriots. And so I want to talk through 4 things that I believe and that historians believe enabled the Patriots to win the Revolutionary War and explain how that can inform our approach to the state of California. Again, on policy and opinion differences, not on actual warfare. So let's start with number 1. First, the colonies used a different type of war to fight the British that they were not used to. Today we would call it guerrilla warfare. And George Washington, after the Battle of New York in particular, learned that he couldn't go head to head with the British Empire, which had many more troops and much more sophisticated armor and weaponry. And so he decided to employ quick strategic strikes, and then he would disappear after it. And so in 1776, he crossed over the river, attacked in Princeton and Trenton, and then crossed back over the river. And so they were constantly attacking, then disappearing. And the British were not used to this. And in Shasta County, we can't think that a head-to-head confrontation with the state is going to work out well for us. In some cases, very limited cases, it might, but for the most part, that's not going to work. And we're seeing that in 2 recent examples. One with the voting system, where we decided to terminate our contract with Dominion Voting Systems, only to have the state now pushing through legislation that would make it illegal to hand count when you have over 1,000 voters. And so going on national TV and boasting about what we were able to achieve here by just giving the state the middle finger on that has produced the exact opposite result. We're also seeing that with the Fountain Wind Project, where the developers wanted to build a wind farm here in the county, and we said no, and now the state is overruling that. And so we need to think about what are crafty, more kind of subtle ways to push back on what the state is doing versus head-to-head confrontation that we're seeing time and time again is not working. Okay, number 2. It's pretty clear that the American patriots, despite their bravery and courage, would not have won the American Revolutionary War without the help of some European friends. The French in particular were huge, but the Spanish and the Dutch from Netherlands also made a tremendous difference. The amount of financial contribution to the American patriots is estimated to be about 20 times the economic output of the colonies from those 3 countries. And so that made a tremendous difference. And in Shasta County, we can't go alone. We have to collaborate with other counties. We need to find like-minded folks in the state government who could be allies with us. And we need to earn the respect and the credibility of others who are working around the state and in the state government through excellence and honor. And that way we can move together as a group and as a collective. We can't expect to go at it alone and achieve the type of county we want to have. Okay, number 3. After the Battle of New York, George Washington realized that the Continental Army needed to win the hearts and minds of the people, because at the time, there was a large number of people living in the colonies who were actually sympathetic to the British Empire. And he knew that in the long term, over a long-term conflict, that if he didn't win the hearts and minds of the people, ultimately they would fail. And we need to focus on that here in Shasta County too, by focusing on the problems we all can agree exist, like crime and homelessness, water shortages, mental health, addiction, wildfire. These are things all across the state, and particularly here in Shasta County, that we all agree can exist. And if we can make progress on those, we'll start to win the hearts and minds of people all around the state who say, look, those people are making progress on things that actually matter. And finally, logistics. So Nathaniel Greene of the Continental Army made the Continental Army really agile and adept at resupplying its troops so that they could move quickly and make adjustments and engage in that guerrilla warfare that I talked about earlier. The British military struggled, despite having more resources, to get those resources to its troops and to adjust and maneuver more quickly. In Shasta County, we need to get the nuts and bolts of execution and implementation correct. It's not glorious. It's not, something that everybody likes to talk about on the news, but we need to get our decision-making buttoned up where we have transparent decision-making processes, where we evaluate different options on criteria, where people can see, okay, I trust the process, even if I don't agree with where you end up on the decision. We need to have a county that attracts high-quality talent rather than losing all of our directors and our staff because they don't want to work in this environment anymore. And we need to get implementation right, where we're delivering well, we're doing the nuts and bolts right. And so as we celebrate today's independence, I hope that we honor the past by remembering those lessons and applying them here in Shasta County, that we don't go after head-to-head confrontation most of the time, but instead we choose more guerrilla warfare tactics, that we collaborate with others, that we focus on winning the hearts and minds of people around the county and in the state, and that we get the logistics, the execution, and implementation right. Have a great 4th, everyone, and let's remember what happened in the past.